My project this spring in the PLC was to create an unfolding case study that we can use in our nursing pediatric course as a synchronous learning event. So what my plans are to, in Blackboard, create groups of about 10 students, bring them all into Blackboard via Collaborate, and walk through this case study on sepsis synchronously. Now, I have plans to make it an asynchronous module as well, so I think it can be adapted to both synchronous and asynchronous learning. But this one is going to be done with the students online synchronously. So my case study revolves around sepsis, and what I liked about the unfolding piece of it is that you can stop at any point and debrief along the way. Eventually, using the unfolding case study format, you can also build in some branching logic that can create different paths. If students make one choice, they go down this path. If they make another choice, they go down this path. So I liked that idea. This is a very rudimentary attempt. I guess that's bad to say, but first attempt using the branching type logic and can be expanded upon a great deal. This one probably would take, with debriefing and everything involved, probably would take about 30 minutes for a group of 10 students. So I'm going to kind of walk you through I used PowerPoint to make the case study itself. I figured out how to branch through PowerPoint, like from move to one slide, not necessarily to the next slide, but go to a specific slide. So that was something I discovered, and I used it during this presentation. So we're going to start out with sepsis. Sepsis is a real big hot topic in the hospitals right now. They're really pushing for early recognition. So I would love for my students to come out of the nursing program with the knowledge of how to identify sepsis and intervene early to decrease the mortality and morbidity related to it. So we start off with a definition. What's the difference between infection and sepsis? And these are clickable hyperlinks, and it'll take you to a specific slide in the PowerPoint. When you finish talking about all of these points, again, you have dialogue going on with your students. They are able to chat. They're able to, they have microphone capabilities. I'm not going to enable the camera capability just because I don't want to drain the bandwidth. So I plan on giving them microphone capability. Then you'll click here to return to this slide. How does the infection progress to sepsis? This gives you just a little bit more definition. Again, talking about the difference between infection and sepsis and kind of going through the worsening of the symptoms. And then you're going to go back to the presentation. And then we talk about outcomes. I've got a couple videos from YouTube embedded in my case study. This is about a 4-minute video, and it'll click out to YouTube. And it's kind of a funny little video set to some music that they'll probably remember. So it's just some good information about sepsis, and students like that ability to remember things by sound, music, things like that. So we'll just let it get started. Then we're not going to watch the whole video.
I'm bringing sepsis back.
Okay, that's enough. Alright, once they watch that video, then the next video is an assessment video for sepsis. It's about 6 minutes long. I'll have them watch that video. Great assessment tips. Again, it's a YouTube video, so it'll link out. And then we go into the case study. 6-month-old diagnosed with otitis media, gives some treatment that they're already on, and then some presentation assessment. We're going to go through what they would assess for. These are all the vital signs. We're also going to talk about each one of these parameters and why, if it is abnormal, why it's abnormal. It's part of the debriefing process. Then how should we proceed? So if we choose IV fluids, it'll go to this screen. We'll talk about each one of those points. If they choose IV antibiotics, we'll go to this screen, talk about IV antibiotics, and then some other treatments that you can do with sepsis, so they'll know interventions to provide for your patients. And then we go back to the case study, and of course, like all good nurses, we reassess after our interventions. This is what we see for our interventions. We talk about those, and that's the end of my unfolding case study. So I feel like that this will help engage students in a smaller group. With a group of 10, I usually have about 120 in my course. So we'll have about 12 sessions. Groups of 10, it's a little bit easier to interact one-on-one individually with your students. It'll build that sense of community that we talked about during PLC, and it kind of gets them using the technology, Blackboard Collaborate, but up to this point, they've used it quite a bit. So I just think it'll be a really good way to provide some synchronous learning.